Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about writing a summary. By now you should know how to write a retelling of a story. If you will recall, a retelling is the main things that happen in a story in chronological order, or the order in which it happens. What we are going to be doing is take this idea of retelling and make it even shorter and condense it even more. So now we're taking the biggest ideas of a story and we are retelling it, but only in a paragraph in length. So we really want to make sure that we're just describing just the biggest, most important ideas in that story, because we want to condense it down to a paragraph in length. So let's go through the different steps of writing a summary. First of all, we'll start with the main characters. Who are they? Well, for our example here, I want to start off with a story that hopefully you remember, the story of the three little pigs. Now, if you've not read that story, you might want to go ahead and pause this video and read it, and several versions can be found online. If you have read it, and hopefully you have, I want you to think back to the main points of the story. What happens in the story, who's in the story, and what's the big problem in the story. Okay, well, let's go through the different parts. Who are the main characters? Well, who are the main characters in the three little pigs? Well, it's in the title, isn't it? Okay, so we've got the three little pigs. And then we've got that bad guy here, the big bad wolf, right? Okay, add the setting. Where does the story take place? Okay, well, it mostly takes place in a few different places, but we'll say in the pigs' homes, or what's left of their houses after they get destroyed by the big bad wolf. What's the main problem in the story? Well, if you will recall, what is the main problem in the story? That's right. The wolf wants to eat the pigs. And that is a big problem. I think you could agree with that. Okay, what is the climax or turning point in the story? Okay, so the climax is the tensest part of the story, where you're not sure what's going to happen next. And we also call it sometimes the turning point of the story. So maybe the bad guy has the upper hand for most of the story, but at the turning point, things are starting to turn in favor of the good guy, or the main character. So what would we consider to be the climax of the story of the three little pigs? Well, we could probably say that happens when the wolf goes to the third pig's house. Do you remember what happens there? That's right. He tries to blow that house down, but it's made out of bricks and he can't do it. And ultimately, it ends up poorly for that wolf, correct? Okay, so I would say the climax is when the wolf can't blow down the third pig's house. Okay, how does the story end? Well, it ends with the wolf falling into the cooking pot and into the pig's stew, right? So the wolf falls into the pot and becomes stew. Bad news for the wolf. Okay, now I'm going to put this all together and create my summary. So again, I'm putting my ideas of the characters, the setting, problem, climax, and the solution. I want to make sure that all of these elements are in my paragraph, but I'm just writing the biggest ideas, and I'm making sure that I'm putting them in chronological order, or the order in which they happened. Okay, so I'm going to start off with my characters and the big problem. Okay, so the big bad wolf. Okay, I'm making sure to indent my paragraph. First sentence of my paragraph. So the big bad wolf wants to have the little pigs for dinner. The 3 little pigs for dinner. After blowing down the 2 pigs' houses, okay, well, so after blowing down 2 pigs' houses, go on to the climax here. He cannot blow down the 3rd. Okay. Okay, so then what happens? Okay, so after climbing down the chimney, to get the 3rd pig, he ends up how? In the stew pot. Himself. Okay, so now I have summarized the entire story, adding all the important elements and condensing it down to one paragraph. The big bad wolf wants to have the 3 little pigs for dinner. After blowing down 2 pigs' houses, he cannot blow down the 3rd. After climbing down the chimney to get the 3rd pig, he ends up in the stew pot himself. Okay, now it is your job to go ahead and summarize the story that you've read. Go through all the different parts and then at the end put it together and create your own paragraph. Happy writing!